Is there anywhere to let me... why? I don't understand this video game. I think I'm gonna Google why I can't go places sometimes in this game. I really want to I want to find a place that has a large amount of... Like, what? Like, this is one of my goals, is to go over here. Why can't I go here? I should be able to go up this freeway, up there, then go there, and explore that spot. Isn't that the goal of the game? But my biggest goal, my personal goal, is I want to find a place in this zone that doesn't have really bad anomalies, but has, like, a more than 50% resource meter. So I can actually try to farm the specific resources that are really holding back my entire playthrough. So it looks like, more than anything, I want to go to D2. D2... Ew, it has evaporating gas. That is kind of rough. And I'd only be able to get there by going to G1, C5, D2. So kind of quickly, but not totally ideal. So gotta keep an eye on the gas meter, but that's a chance to get a lot of resources potentially. But the question is, how do I go there? So I think I'm gonna try to Google why I can't go places in this game, because I don't think the game's adequately explained that to me. And I don't really know how to quickly find that answer in the game, if it even is in the glossaries. Okay, this game is once again proven to be ungoogleable. I don't have an answer. I understand that I can't go here. No, honestly, I don't really have an answer. Even for this stuff. I was like... So these are like local destinations, right? Like those are like new places to explore. I was gonna say that I understand I can't go here because you have to like go forward to a new endpoint every run or something, but that's obviously not true. I've definitely traveled to non-endpoints on purpose multiple times and it hasn't mattered. So I don't really have a consistent rule I can even point at. Like, it lets me go to G8. G8 is directly outside my base. It's not a question mark. There are points past it in multiple directions, but it lets me have G8 as a destination. But these are destinations, and I have connecting paths to them that are already explored, and it won't let me pick them. It'll only let me pick 5. Or, yeah, I guess I'll call it 5. Oh geez, it costs 5 to even leave from that one, damn. That's the only place I can pick in the entire new zone, despite having 5 locations, 6 locations to pick from. Only one of them is highlighted, as far as the question marks go. I have no idea. I have no idea how this game works. It's really frustrating on that level, because that mechanic just is not intuitive. And in particular, I don't think I can click on them to give me an answer. It's just like, nah, you can't. It says dead end, but what does that mean? I know for a fact that every zone in this entire game generates escapes for you to use with anchors. We know that's how it works. So what do you mean it's dead end? I need more explanation, game. Just any indication of what that means and how to change it and so on. I just don't know. I'm very frustrated trying to figure out how the game works. And why does the game give me... The game gives me so many endpoint destinations that are specifically and exclusively in Zone 1. The place I don't need because you go through Zone 1 every time you go deeper. So why is it giving me so many destinations in Zone 1 when I have to go through Zone 1 anyway to get to Zone 2 and 3? So I'll be picking up resources from them anyway. So I just don't... It's just... I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed that I can't click on these things. Even though logically, it's like, well, there's the point that connects to it. So I go to there. And then I go up there. No idea. Alright, so... this one has okay resources and only one bad thing, but it's not amazing. So maybe I'll settle for that. E6, C3, and then that. This spot has unreasonable darkness, apparently. And a crushing storm, and this has a whole new cloud type, apparently. So you can click on multiple scan points, and it'll unlock everything connecting to that point. But I can't click on anything past D2, so I can't make D2 a visitable location. D2 has more resources, but this one has less, but doesn't have that thing. It has acid devours fuel, which seems rude, but maybe isn't that bad. If I avoid the acid, at least. There, I don't know. I've locked in 3 destinations for some reason. But yeah, I guess we'll go to this spot. So we'll go E6 again, and then C3. Pernicious pickpockets, eerie darkness, and swift storm. That could be rough. Alright, I'll hope that at my destination I can finally get some of these resources we're struggling to get. It's tempting to put protection against darkness on me, but the zone the darkness is in, I believe... Let's see, it's 3 bad things and one of them is swift storm. It doesn't have a lot of the resources I need. I'm probably just going to blaze through that zone, grab a couple anchors, then just leave. So headlights point forward and anchors are well lit, so I don't think I'm going to need to have a ceiling mounted spotlight. I think I'm going to want to keep my resource radar for the ending zone, and I want to keep my XL roof storage on for my ability to farm the resources I want. I think I'm going to avoid that. I'm very much trying to just break through my current problems with all the vacuum style resources, so that maybe next episode I can really burst through into the zone 3 objectives and not be stuck where I currently am. So I'm trying to make sense of that as best I can. Let's see. Medkits just aren't that expensive, so I feel like I should just be stocked up on these before it becomes a problem. And we'll get out there. Anyway, this isn't me disliking the game or thinking it's bad or anything. It's just I am annoyed that they just don't better articulate what's going on with the map and why you can't go places. It just feels like the game should... Like, I understand the idea of extracting enough zones one by one to unlock the next row of the zone. So the initial gameplay loop made perfect sense to me about getting deeper and deeper by having to do a run, and each run gets slightly longer. It's that ever since then it's gotten really hard to parse what the game wants from me, because now a bunch of zones are just dead, and it's not clear why they're dead. And even when you understand the idea that you need to pick an endpoint that's arbitrarily at the end, even though a lot of the endpoints they let me pick are not at the end, but like immediately next to me and aren't on the way to anything and also are not undiscovered. But even if you try to, even when you know that you can click on a destination past what you want to go to, and that'll let you go to it on the way, I am then given a situation where I can't click on stuff that's on the way there anyway. Because the game just will, there's no destination to that entire quadrant of the map, even though it is connected to the parts of the map that I have explored so far. It was very strange. At this point I've explained it fully, there's not really much more to say, but like, that's weird, right? Even if you know the answer somehow, I'm sure you can understand why that's just like a very confusing mechanic. And it's really unclear what I'm supposed to do to fix it. And pretty much universally, what I always say about games like this is that it almost always comes down to the feedback you get from the game, in that even if the explanation makes sense somewhere, you shouldn't expect people to figure out the answer from outside the game. You should expect them to be able to figure it out via the game. So the game just needs better messaging. Like the error messages, the feedback you receive, whatever it tells you at the time just needs to be more clear so you know what's wrong. So I relatively rarely have issues with the gameplay mechanics themselves. It's just how they're presented and just the answer of whether or not I even can figure out what they mean and so on. The last thing you want is the carbuncle aid itself, which is a term that I kind of coined at Illusory Wall a while back, because he was making a video about grave lording relatively early into our friendship after we met. He was making a video about the grave lording mechanic in Dark Souls 1, which is an extremely confusing mechanic that I won't even begin to try to explain how confusing it is or what's going on with it. But the majority of the time people play that game, they just like randomly yeah, like once per playthrough somewhere in playing Dark Souls 1, and maybe not even that often, you'll just randomly get a message that's like, all grave lords have been defeated, or something like that, and you're like, what? And that's probably not even the message, but you just get a weird message about grave lords, and you're like, what's a grave lord? What does this message mean? It's being presented to me, so that tells me I should care about it, but I have no way to interpret what the game's telling me right now. And my point of reference for that, and why I call it the other thing, was that the Game Grumps were playing Sonic Rush, I think? The Sonic, like, Mario Party game. The Sonic the Hedgehog Mario Party game. And the game just randomly said the carbuncle ate itself as a message. Which might have technically... Honestly, that probably made more sense in that game if you're paying enough attention compared to grave lording. But it's just a baffling sentence to be presented with, in that you might not understand what carbuncles are in the first place, and then just being told that a thing ate itself is inherently... That's not even physically possible, generally. And so you're just like trying to parse the sentence, like, what do you mean it ate itself? What do you mean? It's alarming. No, please. Don't fuck with me on... Okay, it looks like it fell off. I'm like, please don't make me fly off this cliff without the ability to control anything about what I'm doing. It's a very bad time to get bunnied. I'm trying a little too hard to get this stable anchor that I don't need. I just feel like I should gather up the anchors in every map before I move on. But I probably should have just left this one. It'd be nice if unstable anchors, or the other anchor, corrupted anchors, showed up in other maps once you had them like unlocked as a thing in the game and we're like familiar with them as a mechanic more. Let's collect some rubber actually while I'm here. That's one of my current problems. A lot of games just struggle with messaging, and they make the games unnecessarily frustrating because you spend way too long just trying to figure out why you can't do something, and the game just won't tell you, and it should just tell you. Somebody was watching my old Subnautica playthrough, and they were like sharing their sympathies over my frustrations with that game, and it was because in that game you can build bases. And in your base building adventures, sometimes the game will just not let you play something, but it won't tell you why. And so you just will spend a bunch of time running around like a maniac, just trying to figure out, like, what's wrong? Why I have the parts for this thing, and it snaps to this position, and it looks like it should be fine, and so you just like keep staring at the thing, like, okay, if I have the parts to build the thing, and I can look at the hologram projection of the thing, and the projection, that hologram that I'm adding, like, that building isn't clipping into, like, any of the walls or anything. It's just, we're underwater, and it's just sticking out into the water like everything else is. I've built other parts around here before. Everything else I built is fine. But if I try to build this thing here, it won't let me build it. And it's like, it's just a case of, like, error messaging, communicating the why would resolve my problem immediately. I would immediately be like, oh, okay, that's what's up. But instead, the game gives you nothing, so you're just like, okay, what's wrong? And very eventually, I was able to figure out that I think the issue was that, like, I had a locker in... I was building a hallway that connects two rooms, and the other room had a locker near that part of the wall. A freestanding locker, like, not a wall locker, a locker that's on the floor, like the ones that are in this game that are just like they stand up on the floor and they're just a solid thing. It wasn't like hanging from the wall like a fixture, but it was too close to the entrance of where the door would be, so they wouldn't let me build the entire hallway with no indication of what was wrong. And that's just very frustrating. It's like, I don't know, man, just let me build the hallway, and then when I build the hallway and it exists, I'll then look there and be like, oh, because the other side of the hallway will be blocked by a locker, and then I will move the locker. Like, you could just let me make that mistake. It won't really be a problem. But if you're going to be that frustrating about letting me play, then at least tell me why you're not letting me do something. Anyway, that's my long-ass rant about my current frustration with the current thing. While I was searching, I did realize that I didn't quite finish the thought from earlier, though. So I think I'll go back to that, which is I talked about the early access Patreon stuff, and somebody hearing that I realized might wonder why there's such a thing as a backlog on Patreon too, as opposed to the public stuff, because isn't the whole point of the Patreon to be getting content faster and in big, huge clumps, these mega videos, and ahead of schedule and so on. So like, why is it early access but not immediate access? And some of that's just like a bottleneck of like rendering so many hours of video and uploading so many hours of video just takes so much time, and I'm doing it all the time, that it's just genuinely difficult to even have that kind of video throughput in the first place. But the other thing is that at some point, surfacing that much content that quickly to my audience is kind of counterproductive, even in the early access tier, because if you flood them with all of it at once, they're just going to not watch it for a variety of reasons. It's already a lot to get a girthy, like, 8-hour video every week for a particular playthrough, but getting like a 30-hour video, or let's be honest, a playlist, or several links, because I can't use playlists because you can link to them off places and find them. But getting a link to several videos to the point where it's like, here's 30, 40 hours of content all at once in one dump. Some people will pick through all that, but a lot of people will glance at it and think, I'll get to that later because it's a big commitment, and then they'll forget, and then they'll never think about it again. So it is a bit more helpful to be like, here's parts 1 through 3, and then next week being, here's parts 4 through 6. Because when you see 4 through 6, you're reminded that, oh right, I should get caught up on 1 through 3. I didn't get to that. Like those are always helpful reminders. Okay, this place is gonna be dark. I probably already have enough gateway stuff to escape at the probably not. It requires 4. Yeah, I'm gonna want to get some gateways in here, especially since it might be the tier 2 stuff that I'm not full up on yet. I don't know where these lizards are. I've never scanned. That's interesting, especially since it's like a resource type or something. Maybe if I use the resource radar, I'll save them. All right, so pickpockets suck. I don't want to deal with pickpockets, obviously, but then we also have a rushing storm, and this is also the acid dickhead version zone place that's bad. So we're gonna be in a bit of a hurry. But I'll see if I can get anything helpful as we go. Yeah, that's one. Oop. Oh, both the anchors are by the exit. That's interesting. Let me look at the... No, not that. There we go. What? No. Ah, I want to look at hazards. Finishes pickpockets anomalies known for stealing things are even more larcenous in this part of the zone. Okay, so they're just worse. I don't know if they'd like pick worse parts of my inventory out or something. Okay, so both the anchors are by the exit, which is fantastic news. So I only really will do a divergence if I see a resource I really want, maybe. And even that will feel dangerous. But the other hazard was like swift storm. Yeah, that'll be self-evident, so I don't have to think about that. And then, oh god. And then what was it? The darkness. That's also not a big deal. Okay. Storm is a big deal eventually, but I'll notice when it's happening, obviously, so I'm not immediately concerned. So the main thing is just to keep my light on and move deeper into the zone. Do a ping every now and then. I don't know how expensive the ping is to spend. But I'd very much like to pick up on a resource that I want. What are those resources? That's fuel, right? So it's just every car, I assume? And sometimes a tanker? Uh-oh. Can I outrun this guy? Oh god, maybe not. No? pull me directly into the acid. Super rude. Ow. Alright, we're in zone 2 where my goal is to get resources from this zone, so I do want to scan around a little bit and see if I can find any surprises before I have to leave, given that my anchors are incredibly luckily placed this time. But yeah, the other reason to space out my Patreon offerings, beyond the part where it's just this is a more reasonable way to even give people content, even when it is marathon content, the other way is just the fact that, like, if I binge a lot and get a lot of work done ready for Patreon, because I do I feel this pressure to constantly maintain an output, so people feel like they're like getting their money's worth, and I need to do that both objectively, in a way that makes me feel like it's honestly true on my perspective each month, but I also need to do it on a subjective, sort of like more superficial level, in that it needs to visually look like it's a lot of value and content for people too, and I need to present it in a way that makes it feel that way, so that people feel like they're getting their money's worth too, which is not always the same thing as whether or not it's true. So I'm simultaneously trying to present it in a way that feels good to receive. So I have to juggle those two concepts, essentially. What is that? Wait, are those yellow things fuel that you can carry around? Ah, this icon is this. It's not tree candy. Is this zone just devoid of any of the stuff that I actually want? Okay, that lizard's over here. I can maybe learn what it is. Here's the thing that runs away. It seems to always give me a speed boost. Yeah, I don't care about speed boost. What is a lizard? I'm actively trying to find this one and I don't see it. There's one way out there, but one of them was nearby. I wish the pings would stay up. I don't want to use a lot of resources on them. Ah! Is it just swamp eggs? Have I just not scanned this somehow? I don't know, the game says I haven't scanned it, because it's one of the mystery items. So I don't know what's up. But that is a good reminder, is that whenever I see the big golden globes, those are the marsh eggs. And the marsh eggs are one of the things that I actually need to get more of. I'm a little torn on maybe I shouldn't be using the thermal vacuum here, because a regular vacuum works fine. In particular, the game recommends that I use the thermal vacuum for other things, which makes me suspect that I'm not getting as much as I could by using the regular vacuum. But it doesn't say that about the marsh eggs, so maybe I'm overusing this resource, this tool, and wasting it. But yeah, anyway, this is just me having a ton of things to juggle for work all the time and the chaos that always means. But basically, because I run multiple channels, a problem with running a video essay channel is that one, I have to stay ahead on my Let's Play channel so that doesn't die on me, because obviously I need to maintain my day job because the video essay channel does not pay the bills. But on top of that, now that I have Patreon tied to Let's Play stuff, I need to maintain the appearance of my Patreon channel always being a worthwhile investment and so on for my Let's Play audience, and not losing them. But I then need to work on these video essays that people do like and want me to make. But the struggle is that me working on video essays is extremely time consuming, and that effort is invisible, so people don't see when it's happening. And whenever I have to step away to do that stuff, it looks like I'm just like not making anything for a while. and then and then that leads to people wanting to unsubscribe because they're not getting anything. Because I can at best provide like a work in progress script like maybe once a month, if that, and I don't even know if people want work in progress scripts because they want the video to come out. They at least want to be able to like have a listenable version of the thing, not the script. So essentially I need to binge like crazy for Patreon, build a backlog, schedule out a bunch of Patreon posts, then disappear for weeks at a time to work on the video essay channel, making a bunch of stuff that will not oh god, they're chasing me? Like actively? Like when it's time for video essay stuff, to work on video essay stuff, I vanish for weeks or months away from recording any gameplay content. And I do so invisibly, like there's nothing to watch from that process. I'm not creating content as people think of it. And so there's no like updates to be posting. And so if I just stopped posting to my Patreon for months, people would be mostly just disappointed and leave. So it's a lot by okay, this thing just isn't by eggs like it's supposed to be? Or are these the ones I already... Okay, there we go. There's some. So it's time for me to disappear and do a month of script writing and then a week of video editing and so on. I need to have the other stuff backlogged so that people will be happy in the meantime. And then I suddenly materialize with big video. Whoa! That's the juggling act my life is these days. I would love to be able to be more confident and just be more honest and direct and like disappear for a while and not have a big consequence, but that would rely on me having a safer amount of support than I do, whereas I can actively see it going up and down month to month to a worrying degree, and so it always feels precarious and risky, and so I always feel like I need to actively work for my money in a way that is not unfair. It's how most people live, but I am not one of those ivory tower YouTubers that is like untouchable and also making a ton of money and everything's fine. And I am not thriving in a big house or permanently financially secure. I'm doing fine, but no, you do not take my vacuum. Wow, they're really grabby here. Give me the swamp coral. It definitely seems to be better at mass grabbing it or something. Yeah, when I started doing YouTube full time, it meant accepting being in poverty level wages for like 3 years. So I'm not there anymore. That's good.
Good news. I can replicate Alan's suppression method. We'll stand some chance of halting the gamma ray burst from the well. 30 years later, my late husband still manages to impress. Figuring out how to keep
ow!
alive
Fuck! I almost died.
Going, however, that's harder. But I have an idea.
My health kits are in my thing.
Go on. We know that as soon as the car gets to the well, the trigger will be instant. Once this remnant expends its energy, gamma radiation will erupt from the well, and the driver will be at ground zero taking the worst of it.
But can we activate the gateway as soon as they make contact?
It's tricky. Too early, and we may interrupt whatever reaction process the remnant carries out. Too late, and it's bad news for the driver. There's too many unknowns. Only the driver will know the right time to use it.
How can we be sure they'll live long enough to make that call?
The ARC device has been transmitting data every single second since it was installed. Every drop of fuel, every spark plug.
Oh my god. Oh, I didn't actually... No, I did have my parking brake on. It just doesn't matter. Jesus.
But the driver is the guinea pig.
The mere act of being alive is the biggest experiment of all to you.
Is that another one of Alan's sayings?
That one's all mine. Driver, we've seen that car protect you this entire time. It's triggered a gateway in your time of need. It's ferried you back to the garage through every circumstance and obstacle and bump in the road. So we can trust that it'll protect you long enough to get you away from whatever and wherever you end up.
Still sounds like a heavy dose of blind faith to me.
Could be. Oh, there's one last part to this, and it's waiting for you back at the auto shop. Take your time. Enjoy the view.
Okay, so they're gonna give me a new part that enables me to the next plot beat or something. Did you... As always, this is not me begging for money or throwing a pity party or whatever. It's just me explaining my job and what the expectations are and what the logistical realities are and what are all the plates I need to keep spinning and why it might keep me away from certain things that people want me to be working on for longer than you might want because I have to work on all the other things. And just like it's just the reality of things. It's like how somebody explaining what a waitress's job is not the same thing as saying that they need to be like saved from waitressing or anything. It's just like, listen, here's the mess. They took my back door. Those fuckers. You stop. Let me out of here. How long has that been gone? I put it in drive, not park. God damn it. How long has that been gone? Who took it? Fuck. I need a new armored door. I have no idea where that went. Alright, I got both the anchors here. I have 5 so I can escape at the end. But as always, Patreon support is appreciated. I'm not forming sentences very well right now. You gain access to, at this point, usually it's like 100+ hours of early access content for the Let's Play channel. You hear first about any video essays I'm working on. And often get an early access version of the video. Unless there's like a huge barrier to that, like the fact that my last video was about promoting a game jam, and the game jam, it had to be out before the game jam or it wouldn't successfully do that. So there was less early access for the one I made about making a visual novel in 30 days, but usually there's a more of a preview window. And it's also just the only way any of this keeps going. Especially worth noting on, from my perspective, because I'm planning on moving soon, I think, finally, for the first time in like 6 years. And that should be a nice improvement to my life. But it will cost more. So my expenses are going up. And I'm just gonna have to hope that works out. I think it will. How's gas? It's fine. Yeah, I just lost a whole ass armored door. Can I make one? Even a crude one? No, I don't have duct tape and glass shards. You know, that's how you make a crude door, with duct tape and glass shards. That's terrifying. Alright, I have the Liberator. Right? Yeah. How are the surroundings looking? The bad bet is approaching. I probably want to just go into the next zone. And keep an eye out for any cars I find, because I can use the Liberator to nab a door from them. Alright, acid devours fuel. That's the only effect here. This place has a lot. This place has a half meter worth of anchors and resources, so I can make a ton of progress towards my goals here. If things go well, I just need to avoid acid at all costs, because it both does horrible damage to my car all the time, and also now is going to also drain my fuel, which would suck too. Oops, meant to click on that. There's a crash over there and a crash over there. Who's putting cars all the way up there? Alright, we'll head out here towards this anchor probably. Anyway, that's me fully explaining a thought from earlier in exhausting detail the way that I always do. It's one of those things that makes me wonder if I'm neurodivergent sometimes, is just the extent to which I'll be like, no, I have to fully explain myself. If I'm not fully understood, then what will I do? Is it dead now? I think it's dead. I think those things are basically dead the moment you hurt them at all. Or not? It's a hopped up hair. Is it just following me? I don't really want to deal with it following me on back into my car or something. Even if it is a friendly thing, it doesn't... I don't know. There's definitely more hairs for me to scan. Because the game hit me with that really weird one before. There's one that only after basically killing it I realized, like, oh, is this a friendly one? Well, at least they have batteries. Also, ow. Let's heal back up. My excursions into therapy over the last year, I sometimes wonder if they are hindered by my tendency to fully explain everything, purely because they're such a limited time window. It's like you meet somebody once a month for like 50 minutes, and for me, talking for that amount of time is nothing. Like, there's a lot of people in the world who are less used to talking, but I talk for hours and hours every day for my job, obviously. And sometimes I think about that, and I'm like, am I doing a bad job at therapy? Because I'm prone to just eating up the entire window. But that's one. Sounds like an anxiety thing, aka why I'd be in therapy. But two, I lost my train of thought. Defeating the purpose of numbering things in the first place. But I do feel like we accomplished basically nothing in the last year, so could be a bad therapist. Or I'm bad at therapy, or both. But the people I've been stuck with for my tied to my hospital medical insurance, they do kind of feel, they say things that shake my confidence that they actually know what they're talking about, which is like, feels like the height of hubris, the idea that I know better than the people who do this for a living. But I do kind of think that might be the case. Not like across their entire field, but just the fact that when I say certain things, they say things that alarm me. Like when I asked, let's see, I don't want that. I don't know what that symbol means. And what type of trees are those? Is that tree I want? Is that the tree symbol I just had and I already forgot? It's probably tree sap, tree candy. Yeah. Because if it was the annoying type of tree sap that feels wasteful and unhelpful, the tree geodes, it probably wouldn't be. Oh no, it's this stuff too, but it's empty. It was the type of tree stuff that I don't want. The ones that are like, here's a side quest to open up a stupid poster. They wouldn't be that closely clustered. They're usually kind of rare. Oh, it blows that the stuff is here, but it's not here. Okay, we got 25 more tree candy. That was more damaging than I would have hoped for my stop. Only the rear bumper is really damaged, though. Yeah, I went in wondering about ADHD, autism, dyslexia, and anxiety. and they immediately deflected away from testing for ADHD by focusing on anxiety and sending me to a year of therapy for that stuff, which was expensive and time consuming and felt like it accomplished basically nothing, which is unfortunate. But they didn't even acknowledge the dyslexia comment, and their response to the autism was that they would be able to tell. Like, just over the course of the one conversation we've had, if I was autistic, they would have been able to tell already. Which, like, I don't know, maybe they're super therapists and can get people right away. But what's really stood out to me as being iffy about that is that I know about the concept of masking. Oh my goodness, these things are alarming. Like, I know masking exists, and so which is the way that people with autism and other neurodivergent traits tend to artificially change their behavior around other people in a way that's kind of exhausting to do. But you kind of like become different around people to best emulate what you think they want you to behave like, and that is a way of shielding yourself from being treated differently for being neurodivergent, or even just trying to like approximate what people want from others in society, because you're trying to just get along with people and stuff, and that's its own whole thing. And so I later brought up, like, oh yeah, the person that said they would have been able to tell if I had autism, they said that they said they'd just be able to tell based on our conversation. And I'm like, but I'm 34, so like, if I am neurodivergent, you would think that I'd be pretty decent at masking by now. Like, obviously this is going into the assumption that you're not like on the particular end of the spectrum of autism, but like, the type of people that I encounter that say they're autistic, it's not always, and they're often people that I wasn't necessarily like questioning their behavior on any real level necessarily, that they didn't stand out to me. So it's like they were assimilating and fitting in, assuming that they are in fact autistic and everything. That's all correct and diagnosed and stuff. So just, you know, people that mask well and are high functioning or whatever the fuck. I'm trying to use the right language here, but I'm also trying to play a video game, so hopefully I'm saying things that I'm not accidentally saying anything shitty. I don't love that. Can I get through there without being electrocuted? Okay. But this person's response was that, oh no, and this is from a therapist, people with autism can't mask. That's what makes them autistic. And I'm like, because I've literally only learned the term masking as a mental sort of thing, a term, in the context of people with autism, and people use it in that context all the time, and have for years, and I've heard about it from people with diagnoses, I've heard about it from, secondhand and whatnot from, like, professionals. So this person telling me, specifically the therapist that I'd been seeing for the last year, telling me that people with autism can't mask, immediately shook all confidence in all of our exchanges for the last year, making me feel like I've maybe wasted my time exclusively. But also with the medical insurance situation I have, I'm basically stuck with this organization until I completely swap out everything, basically. I can't really get a second opinion or talk to anybody else. Maybe a different therapist, but if they're all in the same room together and believing this stuff at each other, then it's like, what do I do with that? What do I even do with that information? Because, like, I don't think I'm better than them at their job overall or anything like that. Like, that's not the level of disbelief I have with them. But them saying that people with autism can't mask, that really alarmed me, because I'm like, people use that term all the time, and they specifically and exclusively use it basically only to describe people with autism changing their behavior to assimilate and fit in and everything, and how that's such a burden on their life and everything. And I know a lot of people with autism at this point. I mean, I'm a furry, So like, what do I even do? Like, what do you do if you're meeting a mental health professional for a year and they say something that seems to just be blatantly wrong about the basics of their field? That's wild. I'm like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, are they just like massively, are they out of date? Is that what's happening? Can I suck up these weird butterflies? They mean something? Are they gathered around something I should care about? They feel like a tell that should matter, but I don't think they do. So anyway, I don't know. Have fun with the comment section on this video later. I will have forgotten about it ages later. Might be the first place anyone found out that some people I found out I was even pursuing diagnoses about anything, which is not new information overall, but might be here. But you know, as a content creator, any information I put out there is constantly fragmented because everyone only sees specific parts of it. Did I already come in here? No, because there's inertia every time I try to open something. It's just so carbon copy of the other place I was just at that it feels like the same place again. So anyway, my big goal was to get an ADHD diagnosis or to figure it out for sure. Like, I mean, I don't want to like force a diagnosis if it's not real. But I was getting increasingly convinced that I had ADHD. And I spent a whole year trying to pursue that diagnosis, but they spent that entire time putting me in therapy for anxiety, which didn't feel very productive, even though I do think I have anxiety, because I think I just dominate these conversations in podcast mode and just kind of like, I think I'm too talkative and they don't direct it enough or something, or in particular, it being once a month and me being like conscious enough of my behaviors, I feel like I can accurately identify my avoidant behaviors or other anxiety symptoms or me failing to manage myself. I think I can... Oh god, there's a storm coming. What kind of storm is that? What kind of storm is that? Let's just swoop around this side of the map and see if I find things. Our gas is doing okay, so I haven't taken that much acid. But I should find a back door to put on this thing. I keep forgetting. But I found that like I'm like conscious of my issues enough that I feel like I'm able to accurately assess and decide on how best to proceed and how to fix my behaviors and do better next time. And I've done that, and by the time therapy happens again, I feel like I've done that entire loop mentally weeks before therapy even happens again, to the point where I'm like, okay, well you're not really providing me with tools to even deal with my stuff because I seem to really know about that stuff already, and you're not about to give me anxiety medication to help me in ways that I can't help myself, which is an actual like direct treatment. So I feel like I'm just wasting my time and talking to you about the things I already figured out, and then you offer no additional input, really. So that feels wasteful. But but I had to go through like 8 sessions of that or something like that before they would even test me for ADHD, because of the idea that like, oh well, your anxiety is making it worse probably, so we have to like deal with your anxiety somehow in order to gain access to, in order to like get a clearer picture of your ADHD supposedly. And it's like they did nothing about this process I think had any impact on my anxiety symptoms. If anything helped my anxiety symptoms, it was likely the fact that I've just been like more outgoing and putting myself into more situations that I would be afraid of putting myself in previously, and being braver and pushing through my mental barriers and like doing better as a whole. But I was already doing that before they made me do this, and so they're not doing that to me either. So overall, it just seems like it's either I don't need anxiety therapy, or these people aren't productive for that. unless you just blanket value the idea of being able to talk to a therapist just for the sake of it, in which case, sure, maybe, but they are charging me the whole time, so that's part of the equation there, obviously. Got some thermosap crystals. We're actually accomplishing things right now. But I found the process of pursuing an ADHD diagnosis upsetting, because unfortunately, you are pursuing it. You are working to have a diagnosis, because, like, the unfortunate part of this whole process is that, at least with the American medical system, no one's really looking out for you. They don't have your back. There's no sense that, like, anyone just is checking in on you periodically and trying to make sure that you're living your best life, health-wise and mental health-wise, and is actively vigilant about the idea of diagnoses and what might be going on with your life. No one gives a shit you exist in this world, in like our particular American society at least. I don't know how things are in other countries. No one gives a fuck about you here, and so the result of that is that you have to self-advocate, which in the case of mental stuff means you need to basically convince yourself that you do have that you do have the condition and need a diagnosis explicitly. Because if you can't convince yourself that on like a slightly religious level, basically, and really like buy in, then you would never make it through the grueling ass process and series of obstacles they put between you and actually checking for a diagnosis. You would just get filtered out. I think about the fact that like so many mega corporations these days have these huge they have these huge phone trees that they put you through if you want to call literally anyone at their company for any reason. And it's like, this is a service I'm paying for, you fuckers. I should have access to this company. But if you want to have access to their company, you've got to go through their giant phone tree and then get redirected to somebody in India. And then after all that, maybe you'll finally get to talk to somebody who actually does the job you're trying to talk to somebody about. It's such a huge pain in the ass, but it's on purpose. They're wasting your time on purpose because they want a bunch of the people. I can use a tow truck on this guy, scraper on this guy. So the tow truck is one of the things I've not been looking at all this time. If I want to cut its doors off, I guess. It's probably not the most productive thing to go after. But it's known that these companies intentionally do all this stuff specifically because putting so many obstacles between you and the help you want or the service you need, both technical barriers and time barriers between all the amount of hold that you're put on and the big phone trees and all this other stuff that's happening, and then the social barrier of then having to talk to a person at the end and navigate that. And hope that they don't then put you on hold or redirect you, and so many of the times they then just redirect you to a different department, and sometimes the two departments will just keep shirking the responsibility and send you back and forth on a loop. All these barriers are there to get you to just fuck off. They don't want to help you because that's going to cost them money if it's any kind of claims thing, or it's going to cost them time if an employee has to work with you. No. So they actively want to waste your time and send you around. And the thing that happened with me, where I had to put up with a year worth of other stuff just to get my ADHD testing, felt a lot like being stuck in a phone tree and a company actively wanting to not deal with me because because medical companies are famously not any better than any other corporations that we have to deal with. In fact, somebody murdered a billionaire CEO over that recently. You might have heard. So, and notably, most of the American people seemed to be thinking of him as maybe not most, but many people saw that guy as a hero for that, which does not bode well for the current level of confidence and customer satisfaction people have with the American medical insurance companies and so on. To not say anything in favor or against him in a way that would get me in trouble on YouTube or anything, but I'm just saying that the temperature of the room isn't very promising for that. But it's a struggle. But the people I talk to don't feel evil or anything, but it just feels like the system that I'm in might be there to waste my time. And it sucks, because you have to really convince yourself that you have this particular diagnosis for so long just to get to the system, because otherwise you would just get filtered out by how much of a pain in the ass it is, that you would never actually reach the end to even get tested. But that means that it's really hard to accept the results of any testing that don't confirm what you thought, because oh god, I found an explosive, I guess. Jesus. More tree stuff over here. I don't even know what that looked like, so I have no idea what I hit. That's alarming. Nothing looks that broken. So at least there's that. So if you can tell from the way I'm saying this, what I'm leading up to is that I was then diagnosed as being as not having ADHD. But they did so by sending me to a person that I've only met once at the beginning of the entire process. So it was my second hour of talking to this person ever in the entire year. I talked to them once at the beginning, then once at the end. And they sat me in front of a computer, and that computer made me play a game that was basically a series of QuickTime events, which is a little dubious because I play video games for a living. So a video game as a test feels like a weird way of confirming this. Like, I don't feel like I'm a typical subject there. And so that if you're comparing me against other people, I don't know how much I trust the results to be normalized for who I am, which is inherently how that kind of testing has to work. So that's a little spooky. I just saw the tree, didn't I? Where'd it go? I thought I just saw the tree that I scanned. Also, I'm finding way too many tree candy, which I do need, but I really need the sap. Where'd it go? Oh, it's right here. Is it already... It's bald? Okay. We do need to get a move on and maybe grab those anchors. Although sap would be nicer. But I've gone on a loop around the map already, which is about as good as this could have gone. Except for the part where I didn't get the resources I was actually looking for. But yeah, they sat me in front of a computer and I played a QuickTime event for 14 minutes. And in particular, I've heard that this test is supposed to be agonizingly boring, it's supposed to be frustrating, it's supposed to... And like, it makes sense that it would be about boring you, because if you have ADHD, it's supposed to be unengaging on some level, so that you then aren't engaging with it well enough, and then you, how do I phrase this? Because you'd be not engaging well enough with it, and then your attention would potentially wander, and that'd be testing your level of like ADHD or how that works. Is how I'd figure. But instead, my brain was working the problem of like the game design here. I was really interested in how the test was working. In particular, I was noticing that it would do a very long sequence of things for me to react to very quickly, then do a very long gap, and then it would sit there and like do extremely sparse ones with no particular pattern, like that feel incredibly drawn out and suspenseful and frustrating on that level, before then being like, haha, it's time for a DDR sequence. Here's a bunch of, and it felt like a rhythm game in this way, but here's a bunch of symbols back to back, rapid fire, and they're on an even tempo, but you're supposed to not press the button when this symbol shows up. You only press the button when all the other symbols show up. So you'd be like getting rapid fire symbols on an even tempo, and it would be tricking you, because you'd be like, oh, you get the habit of pressing the button on tempo, and that would trick you into accidentally pressing it during the symbol you're supposed to not be pressing it during. And even there, I'm like, is that an attention span problem, or is that a I have a sense of rhythm problem and fell for the rhythm part. I don't know. But overall, I found that I was... Ah! How the fuck do I even get that? But overall, like, I thought that the test was funny. Like, I felt like I was picking up on the sense of humor of the person who did it and the way that they were trying to trick me. And so I found the test very engaging and amusing despite the no graphics and it being kind of tedious to sit through. Oh god, this stuff is here. I'm really risking some stuff right now. So there was just a lot of plausible deniability, or not, that's not the right word. There's a lot of wiggle room that makes me feel like the test isn't accurate for me specifically, or maybe even in general. Like it feels dubious. It feels dubious to believe that it's genuinely an objective test that works for everybody, the way that it's sold to that company as. And it's of course like here's psychiatrists who didn't design the test, just using somebody else's test and believing the test is good, which takes me back to being in college where when an adjunct professor uses a test that was provided for them for a class that they're not invested in, and you're just like in the system with that and having to live with all that. So I have a lot of not great feelings about the situation. I need to leave immediately after this part. That's since my car's dying. But also, it's so abrupt. Like, they get you emotionally invested for a whole year, like that, and then they just kick you out the door after a 14-minute test and say, "Yeah, you don't have ADHD. We proved it objectively. We pinky swear." And you just have to believe that. Wow, this is fucked up. All right, my car's pretty bad, but let's see if I can get out of here. Oh god, are both of my front tires fucked up? Okay, can you, like, show me where I'm going? Okay, fuck. I'm gonna pay dearly for this, but I got the resources I wanted, so if I get back alive, it's worth it, even if I have to do a lot of repairs. But hopefully I don't lose armored pieces that I have to craft again, because those are made of thermal crystals. And I feel like that might happen, especially with how badly I'm driving right now, because of how badly messed up my car is. But yeah, I'll be honest, they kicked me out of that 14-minute test after a year of buildup and me having to self-advocate and convince myself continually that this was the case in order to even proceed. And ultimately, like, I cried in the parking lot before I could get in my car and really, like, drive away and go on with my life. Like, I had to compose myself again before I could leave the parking lot in my car. Because it's like, yeah, you have this huge emotional journey that you have to get it. The system they put you through almost feels slightly abusive with the way that, like, you have to get so emotionally invested in this particular idea, and then they just rip it away, being like, yeah, I'm somebody that you don't know that well, and here's a test that totally proves you're wrong. I swear, whoa! Never seen that happen. I gave you a test that proves that you're wrong, so, fuck off. That's all very frustrating. Here's a test that proves you're wrong. You're wrong about yourself. You're wrong about the things you're feeling because a computer said so. And also, we don't accept any outside opinions, so you can't pursue a diagnosis elsewhere than bring it to us. And we're your insurance provider's hospital, so boop. It's just like a hard stop on the entire process of even investigating this idea until I completely change providers and locations and get out of the particular local monopoly with this, like, hospital and shit, and, like, that whole mess. So it's like, that sucks. That entire journey sucks. I've been tempted to make a video about my version of the experience. I was hoping it would be a video about getting an ADHD diagnosis, because it's just like, as a particular journey that just feels like a useful thing to give people. But I had a very different experience, which might be useful to people for different reasons, but is so inconclusive and messy and weird that it's just hard to say if any of it's productive or helpful to the world and or not just misinformation based on my own emotions and stuff. It's wild that this generates different cars. It's not very helpful for them to give me a fuel tanker. Because I guess I can go after its tires still, so that's good. But otherwise, the fact that it has fuel isn't very helpful to me. But it'd be cool if they generate a truck full of resources. So there's my particular ramble about another thing. I kind of forget how I got on that because it took so long to get through. Oh, it was literally the previous ramble, me talking about how I feel the need to fully invest in these things and explain them out. Do-do-do. This has not been secret information, but it's been more provided in places like Blue Sky, and I don't recommend people follow me on Blue Sky, so I don't link to it anywhere, because I don't want to use social media performatively anymore. I don't want to deal with running it like a platform as a content creator and caring about optics and all that other stuff. So instead, my Blue Sky is very much a personal account instead of a brand account, which means that I retweet porn. Shut up. Who cares? It's very much not like my YouTuber account, even though I will link to my YouTube stuff there. It's labeled as 18 plus. I interact with tons of furries, and it's there for me to be hanging out with all my furry friends and having a better social life, essentially. I think trying to run a Twitter account or anything equivalent as a YouTube brand is like bad for your brain. It's like pain. It's like harmful to put yourself through that, because the internet's just evil and bad for you, and people cheer for your downfall and so on. And it's just bad for you at some point to try to run that kind of thing yourself, to represent yourself. It only really makes sense if you're going full brand and dissociating your personality from it and just being like, yep, that's my brand account, and it might be run by a different person that isn't you. That's like the only way I can imagine doing it anymore. Going on and on about stuff. But my current situation is that I think I'm probably going to pursue an ADHD diagnosis again after I move, and I have access to different doctors and things. Because I didn't find the results satisfying, and there was a lot of things that caused me to doubt the process, like the fact that it was a 14-minute computer video game test, of all things. And yeah, I'm serious about 14 minutes. It's a very specific, very brief test that really doesn't inspire that much confidence. But also the fact that they'd like, as far as, it really feels like they're just wrong about autism and wrong about a lot of other things in a way that makes me feel like I'm just in a weird pocket of strangely backwards and like out-of-date information, and that I can't trust the people involved to be right about things. And I have mixed feelings even about the idea of going elsewhere, because I admit there is an issue where there's the question of whether or not there's an over-diagnosing or under-diagnosing of ADHD or what's going on with that stuff. And on one hand, you'd want to be able to say that pursuing a second opinion should just be good, because it should just be objective, right? Like, it should be like, you should be able to prove... hiccup or something. You should be able to prove you have ADHD or don't have ADHD, right? Like, it should be objectively provable on some level, or at least like people could like disagree on you not having ADHD, but like, yeah, you should be able to get a false positive, right? I'm saying that somewhat facetiously, because you probably can. It's like, I worry on some level that maybe going elsewhere is just like rolling the dice on how subjective this process is, and then you just get a a made-up diagnosis, essentially, because you just asked enough people, and then one of them finally said yes, which is a bummer, because you would definitely would hope it'd be more objective than that, and that you could, that it would be just true, or not true, and that you wouldn't get a yes from somebody who doesn't give a yes. But all I know is that I was given a very exhaustive process, and I don't know if that exhaustive process was more true just because it was exhaustive necessarily. And I also know that there's people who just go in and they describe what they're going through and what their symptoms are like, and then they just get a diagnosis over that. Like, basically, over one conversation describing what they're going through. Which, like, is that better or worse than what I went through? I don't know. So I don't know if there's an objective answer anywhere here. On one hand, if there's no testing involved, if they're just asking you, arguably, asking you is a test in its own right. It's like, for example, there's an ongoing thing, there's an ongoing dispute about furries and the idea that 80% of furries are either trans or queer, or, well, queer is everything, but they're either like trans or gay or bi or ace and so on. So like only 20% of furries are supposedly both cis and straight. So the heteronormative expectation of what a person is only applies 1 in 5 times to furries, as opposed to real life, where or the rest of normal life, where it's normally 4 out of 5. It's almost exactly inverted, where gay people are the straights of furries, and the straight people are the gays of furries. Essentially, like that's how it's inverted, almost directly mathematically, and it's fascinating. But that's based on a survey of asking people, which people dispute because it's a survey. That's not a double-blind scientific trial. But, follow-up question, how do you find that out? How do you find out what percentage of people are straight or not? You ask them, right? In a survey. Like, they're not medically diagnosed as being not straight, except for some, like trans diagnoses, but not everyone who's trans has a diagnosis, and I don't think people really diagnose people as being gay. At most, you might have a certain prescriptions because you're gay, but you don't get a diagnosis of being gay usually. You just say that you're gay to your doctor, and then they give you certain stuff that can protect you in some cases because of that, which is just not the same thing. So I don't know, people could prove their PrEP prescription exists, but that's not the same thing as proving they're gay. And obviously that level of barrier would be like the equivalent of like voter suppression, where you'd be reducing the results artificially by making it harder to prove something that isn't actually, but it being hard to prove doesn't actually make it more true. So like, yes, I would love to have more accurate or more reliable data on whether or not that data is accurate on furries being gay or not, because I want to be citing the most accurate possible data in my videos when I talk about that stuff. But how do you get more accurate than just asking furries what their gender identity is and their sexuality? That's all you can do, right? You just have to ask them in large numbers and then explain how you gathered that data. And the only way you can really beat that, I think, is just another person also doing a survey, but maybe slightly better. They maybe do a better job at the survey based on who they ask, or maybe how they diversify their data across the world or something. Like, otherwise it's still going to be a survey, because that's how you ask people that. So on some level, I'm like, unless I'm getting a brain scan that literally is like, we identified the exact part of the brain that misfires for ADHD, and this is the part, so we can tell with an objective brain scan if someone has ADHD or not. Short of that, doing like a 14-minute behavioral test once that's dependent on your mood and what's in your system and your emotional reaction to the game they make you play and so on, like, that doesn't feel more objective or accurate necessarily than just asking me, hey, what are you dealing with day to day? Yeah, that sounds like this. And then maybe comparing it to other stuff and eliminating other possibilities. And could it be this? Or could it be that? That'd be more interesting, but just saying you don't have it because you took a test and that proves it for everybody. I don't know. I actually don't know if that is more reliable than just doing the alternative where you just ask people if they have all these symptoms or not. Obviously, if someone's drug seeking or something like that, or they just want the diagnosis for the sake of it, they might lie and change their answers. But if people are being honest about their answers, I don't know how else you can... I don't know if it's necessarily wrong just to ask them. So otherwise, what do I say? Like, I think, like, Birdcatcher, my friend, he got his diagnosis by just talking to somebody. And then talked through all of his problems, and they're like, yeah, that sounds like ADHD. And then they proceeded from there. And, like, am I going to, like, take my experience and then declare that, like, actually, you weren't objectively proven to have ADHD, so your lived experience is actually probably false because you didn't go through this exhaustive process that I did. Because the medical system I'm stuck in insists on a fuck ton of testing and so on to get there, whereas yours just gave you the diagnosis for free. Like, that'd be shitty. Obviously, don't do that. It's interesting thinking about queerness for a second there, because this is kind of off topic, but I was thinking about, like, trans people actually do that. They do coach each other on what answers to give to go through the system, but that's its own whole other can of worms, which is that the idea of getting a diagnosis, like trying to get treatment for transness, often requires getting a medical diagnosis for body dysmorphia or gender dysmorphia, whether or not you actually feel that way about yourself, because the people have decoupled the idea of being trans from the idea of gender dysmorphia, which you can have but might not have, because it maybe don't have this horrific reaction to your own presentation being wrong, but you just know deep down that you should be this other way, and that's, like, not necessarily always tied to this, like, revolting experience. So trans people usually largely agree that you don't need gender dysmorphia feelings to be trans, but they also know that you probably still have to quote unquote prove that to the doctors to get the other parts of the treatment that you want. And I don't know, on a very annoying level, I hate the fact that even when I was getting this test and going through this process, I'm like, well, I want to prove it. I want to prove whether it's true or not. I don't want to put my weight on the scale, but I can't unthink the fact that the entire time I'm going through the process, I'm thinking and actively about what they want to hear. And even when I was taking the test, I was thinking about what am I supposed to be acting like? What is my behavior supposed to resemble right now? Like, what are they expecting from me? And am I doing that or not? And is me thinking about it in real time right now, is that interfering with the results? I don't know. Holy fuck, I have a lot of thermal crystals though. 100? That's good news. Anyway, this is another podcasty episode. Some people love these, so if that's the case, cool. I got a bunch of thermal crystals, so that's good. Next time me will unpack the technology there and what I may have unlocked, but I did not find coral or really eggs. So this has been a frustrating process, but at least I found thermal crystals finally. See you guys next time.